Hi everyone, welcome to this special episode of Beyond the South Stand with me, Jez Davies. I am joined with Morgan. How are you?
I'm the co-host.
I know you are. That's why I introduced you as... Well, that's...
You did say co-host.
No, here's my co-host, Morgan Hewitt.
Now, hello. How is everyone doing in the world of the internet?
Yes, good, thank you. We're also joined with Rhys Lewis. Hi, Rhys.
Hi both, how are you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you, Rhys. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well. It's really generous of you guys to give up an hour or so to be my personal therapists about Stoke this week. I can rant about all of my misery, and you can kind of tell me, okay, Rhys, we won't beat you by too many on Saturday.
The form we're in at the moment, it's might like to go the other way, Rhys. So,
it's got 1-1 written all over it.
Yeah. So, how are you? I mean, just obviously explain a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and what you do for a living, and how long you supported Stoke.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Rhys. I'm from a town just north of Stoke called Congleton. I was part of Stoke City Sevens, they called it, which was a initiative to get kids involved around the end of the last championship years. Mm-hmm. So I've been a long time sufferer / supporter for around about best part of 2 decades now.
So you've seen the highs and the lows then. So you've obviously seen the Premier League days under Pulis and some of the players that were coming out of that at that time. I mean, perhaps you can talk us through some of those players.
Yeah, so the first comparison I draw was we played Oxford away, kind of September time, and we got a picture through on one of the archive channels for Stoke, and it was basically on this day, kind of 10 years ago or 12 years ago, it was Valencia away.
Wow.
And that was kind of a comparison for us guys, standing there looking at, I could actually see my car from the stands at Oxford. There was no stand there, and thought, wow, how the mighty have fallen. But no, it was some of the best times of my life, going to an FA Cup final with my dad, the Abide By Me song playing before, really emotional times, qualifying for Europe, going all over the world really with Stoke. And then, like I say, now going to all kinds of championship grounds, your Rotherhams, your Peterboroughs, your Oxfords. It's great times.
I mean, we know that all too well, don't we, Jez?
Yeah.
We plumbed. I wouldn't say plumbed the depths was the wrong word to use, but Norwich have been up and down through the leagues, for a long time. And I think that, when you get used to the top table and you get used to the stake, as it were, when you start to drop off, it is hard to take, and it is difficult. And, you have to then realign your love for your club, I think.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. I mean, to be honest, for some reason, even though it's been about a decade now, we're still in the hangover of Premier League, where there's a lot of the younger fans especially are, Stoke have always been a Premier League team. It's all we've known. We're a Premier League team, and we play under Tony Pulis, and we're big and physical, and it's just all of the things that we're just not anymore. And we need to accept that if we're ever going to get out of this 18th to 16th in the table slump every year.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you say that, actually, because I read an article on The Guardian the other day. Of course I did. The Guardian, I don't read it that much. It was a link on our Norwich City forum that I checked out, and it talked about playing from the back. Yeah. And how playing from the back is in a transition, and on whether or not that is a tactical kind of maneuver that will have a future, because game's changing. So, I mean, it's funny because I thought of Stoke because I thought of John Walters, and I thought of like that number 9, those long balls up to that number 9 who'll just knock it in the back of the net. Like at the moment, Chris Wood, is Chris Wood at Nottingham, isn't it? Nottingham Forest. So, what are your thoughts on that kind of thing?
So we've had both this season. We've had Steven Schumacher, who was the pragmatic, will play out from the back at suitable times, but he was also very helter-skelter. And then we moved to a certain Narcis Palak, who you guys might have heard of, whose style was, he would talk all about controlling phases of the game, especially playing out from the back. He'd tell you all about numerical advantage in the back four, involving your number 6 and trying to play around into gaps. You've got your defenders taking the goal kicks rather than the goalkeepers. When he was sacked, we put Ryan Shawcross in charge for 2 games, Sunderland at home and Burnley away. And you can tell he said to Ashley Phillips, one of our centre-halves, if you get the ball and you pass it to one of our full-backs instead of lumping it up the pitch, I'm going to come on the pitch and I'm going to knock you one. You can tell he said something like that, because every time Ash got the ball, it was just, right, can I hit their centre-half every time?
Yeah. I mean, I think at the moment, I don't know if Jez will agree. I've seen us play out from the back, and it's so ponderous at the moment. Yeah. And I don't know whether it's because we haven't got the personnel or because the players haven't actually gotten onto the fact that we're trying to there has to be pace to get through the transitions. But I think football's an interesting. Because how can teams now adopt a Daniel Farke Man City kind of light football when teams know how to play against that? I think the Championship's in an interesting transitional phase.
I mean, if you don't mind if I interject there, Rhys, all I was going to say is my sort of, we were going to talk about it yesterday, Morgan, weren't we, before we were going to host an episode yesterday, but it didn't happen for whatever reason. But anyway, we started talking about it, but I think statistically, I think you're far less to concede, far less, what's the word I'm looking for here? Likely, thank you, to concede, by playing it out from the back than you are if you lump it up to your right winger to nod it down, because straight away you're in possession. And I think a lot of people go, we've made an error here and conceded a goal because we played out from the back. But the likelihood is you have 9, 10, 11 goal kicks a game if you're lucky, and the majority of those in a season don't result in the opposition scoring. Yet because it happens once, it gets highlighted more. Does that make sense?
I don't know if I agree. I'm passing this over to Rhys. I mean, we're here to talk about Stoke, so.
Yeah.
Well, I'll quickly talk about Southampton awkwardly. So if either of you guys saw I think it was second to last Russell Martin interview before he was sacked, it was one of the games. So they conceded playing out from the back. Then the next time there was a goal kick, they lumped it up to, well, they don't have a big man, but lumped it up to their so-called big man. And he said, 2 passes later, it was back in our net. So he was saying that was our point of, actually, we are a lot more likely to concede from the goal kick playing it long. But I think it is completely dependent on personnel, to be honest. I mean, we try and play out from the back with, a back 2 of Ben Gibson and Michael Rose, both of which just aren't quick enough to actually do that. It is slow and ponderous. The opposition wing backs are always on us, and the press in the Championship that you tend to face is just too quick to play out from the back with our players.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Championship now has gotten accustomed to teams that will play a certain type of Farke ball. I keep bringing this back to Farke ball because obviously, he came to Norwich and we were very successful in a very short spell of time trying to kind of play a Guardiola light type football in the Championship, and it worked. But I think now teams have cottoned on to that. We're trying to, Norwich are now trying to bait the press to find the gaps. But again, teams have cottoned on to that. So they don't care. If we stand on the ball, they'll just sit there. We saw that against Derby. We saw that against Preston recently for us. And I think reading that Guardian article, we are now in a phase of football that has to think about, well, what is playing out from the back, and is it still a thing? I think that we are in. I mean, look at Man City; they've struggled this season because of trying to play it out from the back, but just getting hounded by other teams' kind of high press. So, is this now a case of like, well, horses for courses? Is it about long ball? Is it about going back to 1996, as it were? But I definitely think that we're in a transition phase of football tactics.
No, definitely. I mean, Rhys, before we jump into the questions, I just wanted to talk to you about your match worn Stoke City shirt collection that you have.
Yeah.
Is that something that you could just sort of discuss, and where are you at with that? How many shirts you got? What's your favourite shirt, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. So it actually, ironically, it started with you guys. It started with Norwich. So
As all good things do.
Well, yes, of course. There's a lad called Billy Pointer. You'll have heard of him, I'd imagine.
Yeah, well, we're trying to get him on to interview, actually. So yeah.
Oh, you should. Every time I've seen him speak, he's fantastic. He's really passionate, really knowledgeable. He's great. And it was actually him that I saw originally kind of start the pages, if you like. And I've always gone to football, and there's people who collect scarves, there's people who collect programs, like those memories, key memories with family or friends that you go, I look back on that and go, wow, isn't that amazing? I remember that. I've got a tie to that. I kind of started that by kind of going with my father ages and ages ago, going, God, wouldn't it be really cool if we had a shirt from, I don't know, the Europa League times or the FA Cup run or promotion year and stuff like that. And I guess ever since then, it's been about collecting memories where I can go in, that was great or that was terrible. You remember that shirt? I remember that year kind of thing. I guess my favourite shirt in the collection at the minute would be, I've got a Europa League John Walters shirt.
Wow.
Oh, nice.
And that's probably the pride and joy of, well, it would be the jewel in the crown of any Stoke collector, really, I guess. Because there's just so little Europa League, but I'm up to about 60 odd now shirts, I think.
Wow.
So there's definitely collectors with more, but it's just one of those. I think it's the biggest Stoke collection now.
Oh, amazing. That's really good, mate. Well, keep it up, and I'll be watching your channel with interest, sort of moving forward, because I like that sort of stuff myself, really. So no, it's amazing. Keep it up.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I always end up buying a shirt every single season. One of the three, obviously, because now clubs do tertiary kits. But I always end up maybe wearing it once and then being like, why did I buy this? Because this was like 65 quid. I've worn it once.
Definitely. So, Rhys, how would you assess Stoke's season so far? And are you happy with the direction the club is heading in?
So in a word, chaos, I think is probably the word. So we've been through 3 managers now. Started with Schumacher, went into Mr. Polak, and then Robbins. We're now on to what will be our 3rd head of recruitment as well. We changed from the Jared Dublin data-driven recruitment into more of a Lee Darnborough, what's the character we want in the club? We realised that also doesn't work, and we've got rid of him. So we'll be on to our 3rd soon, going back to the data stuff. Under Polak, unfortunately for him, we had kind of 3 months of not actually winning a game of football, I don't think. After beating Coventry first game, being on, a couple of wins in our first couple of games and going, God, there's loads of hope for this year. Walters saw it as Polak had more potential of getting us into the Premier League, which again is that kind of hangover from the Premier League. We're still a Premier League club, which I just don't see us as being. But you can't fault the ambition of people like Walters. He wants us in the Premier League, but you've got to build a good championship team before you are a Premier League team, and we're not even a good championship team at the minute. So how we push for playoffs or promotion, I've got no idea. We're not really anyone's cup final anymore, which you look at a lot of teams when teams first come down. So you look at your Burnleys this year, or you look at your Leeds this year. Your teams like Oxford will go there and think, God, this is a real cup final. It's a real day out. We're not anyone's cup final anymore. And that's okay. That's where mid-table championship clubs should be.
Yeah.
But we just need to start building into that proper championship outfit. A bit like Bristol City have done. You could probably buy Bristol City for 15 million as a team.
Mm.
There's not really any standout players, but that's the kind of workmanlike championship side we need to develop into.
I mean, I think you're right. I think let's be honest. Like Stoke and Norwich are on a very similar trajectory, and I think that I'll probably get pelters for saying this because of just our fan base, but I'm sure Jez will agree. But we've been in the Championship 3 seasons, and we're tickling playoffs. Every time, and realistically, what is tickling playoffs? It's a mid-table. You're sitting mid-table, and really, you come to Norwich, and like Preston did to us recently, by the time this pod goes out, they beat us 1-0, and Carrow Road isn't like it was. There was a year where we were undefeated. And now, teams know how to play against us and can. Do I think that Norwich are really in the thick of mid-table and a bit crap? No. But, we're always lucky to have that standout player like Josh Sargent, Borgia Saints, etc. But we are still not good enough to be in the playoff mix because we're not there yet. And we haven't been for 3 seasons, and it's a mindset shift for fan base, and it's hard to do.
Yeah, I mean, to be a playoff side now, and it's a credit to some of the recruitment in the Championship. To be a playoff side now, you need an Enzo Lefebvre, you need a Manor Solomon. You need that caliber of player in the team, and you need 4 or 5 of them as well.
Yeah.
As a testament to the Championship, because it's great to see, because you get to watch all these players. It's really competitive, but it just makes that bottom 12 no chance of getting anything out of the season.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
And I think as well is that, you look at it this season, there's 4 breakaway teams, isn't there? Your Sunderland, Sheffield United, Burnley and Leeds. But those other 2 playoff spots are really up for grabs by another maybe sort of 8 clubs, I suppose.
Yeah.
I think you need that level of luck. You need that level of consistency. And when I say luck, what I mean by that is that you need luck with suspensions and injuries.
Yeah.
And if you get that, which we did have when we won the league, by the way, at an absolute canter a few years ago, we actually effectively secured promotion at Stoke, funnily enough. Albeit it wasn't in writing. I think whoever was behind us at the time would have had to be like a 15-goal swing or something. But it was. So the point I was getting to is, I think you do need that luck and consistency, and recruitment's a fair shout as well, Rhys, because I think you look at the clubs and recruitment. Not just monetary recruitment, that's the wrong way of putting it, but what the point I'm getting at is you can't just chuck money at it, because that doesn't work either. But I think at the same time is we've looked at recruitment and perhaps looked at it 2 or 3 years down the line with some of our signings.
Yeah.
And that doesn't sit well with some of our fans. The point and the question I was coming to, Rhys, is I've noticed when I've watched Stoke recently, there's been a drop in attendance. Would that be fair to say, and how the club are addressing that?
Yeah. So, there's a couple of points actually on that. So, again, the good old days. I saw a thing the other day that was we played Man City at home in the first Premier League season, and when Rory Delap got sent off, there was a 15-minute period where inside the ground was 100 decibels. It was the largest decibel recorded noise that any fans have made. It was as loud as a jumbo jet taking off in the ground.
Wow.
So that kind of sums up where we were as a club. But yeah, we used to get 30,000 maybe. We now you're lucky to get 24, but we're probably bordering on 22. But I think, it's one of those where, like you say, it's not just chucking money at it. We spent 80 million in the first year in the Championship. We spent 12 million on Sam Vokes. We spent 12 million on Afobe, 12 on Ince, 8 million on Ryan Woods. We chucked a lot of money at it. Again, it's that recruitment thing of how frugal can you be and how sensible can you be? And we've not done that since.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know too much about your academy. I think that, and I don't want to sit here and brag because it's not nice, but Norwich have really, really gone to town on their academy, more so than probably any. Well, there's a Sky Sports interview with some guy who jumps into the pool where he's like, "This academy is one of the best in the country. You know, it's Premier League standard." We've gone, well, we need to make sure that this club is sustainable for the future. So we're going to upgrade our academy and hope that we can get fit out the first team with 5 or 6 academy players that are phenomenal. Because Norwich is out of the way. It's away from the temptations of London, Manchester, the Midlands. It's like a football rehab, if you will. But I think that's the only reason why we're at this point in time still bobbing around, tickling the playoffs, is because we've got that academy, we've got that foundation, if you will. And then if there's players that we need to strengthen in the first team squad, we can, but we're not going to pay over the odds for it. I think, the Premier League money has been lucky for Norwich, and we were smart with it. Not every club has kind of been in that way. I mean, I don't know what you think to that sort of opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those where I agree that it's partly lucky to be kind of out of the way. I mean, since coming down to the Championship, we've sold something like, I think it's about 40-50 million pounds worth of players who are from our academy. So Harry Souttar went after a fantastic World Cup. Nathan Collins, who's now playing for Brentford, doing really well. Even Tyrese Campbell going on a free is doing really well at Sheffield United. It's one of those where they were all signed in the Premier League days as a Premier League academy. Our academy's brilliant. Clayton Wood's brilliant, the training ground. We're a Cat 1 academy. The problem is now for recruiting players, we're a Championship club, and Man United's up the road, Man City's up the road, Liverpool's up the road, even Wolves, Everton's closer. So being in the Championship, we just have no pull now. So we're still living off. We sold a few players a couple of years ago for loads of money, but FFP's only got another year or 2 left of their contracts elsewhere. So you've got nothing really coming through. We've got a couple of really good players, Nathan Lowe, Emre Tezgel, but it's just how much can you really shift them for as a Championship club when their contracts are running down?
Yeah. I think that's a really good point about academies and Cat 1 academies in the country, and how how that makes a difference. Again, not to press the point, but I think Norwich are lucky and weird in their way that we are a anomaly. We're out of the way, and so young players can come to Norwich because they can just knuckle down and go, "This is football. This is what it means to me. I'm at an academy that is really high end."
Yeah.
I think Norwich got lucky in that sense,
Definitely. Morgan, I think it's time for the next question, sir.
So this season, who's been your standout player, and potentially where improvements need to be made?
Yeah, so this is the part that I get to be really positive about someone. So Victor Johansson in goal, our Viking. My God, is he amazing? He is head and shoulders the best goalkeeper in the Championship, and I will not hear otherwise. There are so many Sheffield United fans that always comment talking about Cooper, which is great. James Trafford is a fantastic goalkeeper, but there's a goals prevented stat which I think is the most important in the Championship. And so Victor's prevented something like 12.5 goals this season. Wow. I think Trafford's on 9. And that we would be very, very close to being bottom of the table without Victor Johansson this year. I think Cooper's on something like 6, and even last year Vic was on 3 in the whole season goals prevented. To quadruple your goals prevented stat this year, it just shows how good he is at kind of stopping really high quality chances. He's our standing captain now, and he should be a permanent captain. He's one of those players you look at, and there's a term in football that he uses. He just gets it. Yeah. And Victor, he just gets it.
He reads the game. I think that's the difference between having a a presence at in goal that can dictate the defensive fortitude of the 4 or 5 players in front of you, as well as the DM. Dictating that it makes a difference for someone who essentially you've got to think about it like he's sat at the back, so he sees everything that's coming towards him.
Yeah,
and if there's an element or a shift that changes, he's got to be able to sort of communicate that with his, front 4, front 5, or front 6, if you include the DM, in order to change the shape so you can contain that forward attack.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we played a cup match against Cardiff a weekend or so ago, and we had Jack Bonham in goal for that game. And so I know Jack from a couple of pre-seasons. He's a really nice lad, but you can tell Victor just gives that calmness to everyone. You go, the ball gets past the centre half and you go, oh, it's fine. We've got Vic. Don't worry about it, kind of thing. It's not a problem. He'll just find a way to save it because he just always does, kind of thing.
Yeah. I think that this season for us, Garden has been a little bit patchy, and there are times when I watch Norwich now and the ball gets played back to Garden. I'm like, it's one of those.
Yeah, I mean, for our who needs to improve, I hope there's no Stoke fans that are going to listen to this and have a go at me, but it's Juno for me. He's I think he must be still 19. He's from South Korea. He's come over not knowing the language, not knowing the city. He now lives in Hanley, which for you guys is it's a bit like, I don't know, moving him to like kind of Aleppo about 5 years ago. It's not the nicest place to live. But no, I mean, he's so good at football. Like, he is just brilliant at football. He can stop it on a sixpence. He can find a pass from anywhere. He just finds a way to get past any player on the pitch. But this season, he's just such a confidence player, and he's just not had that confidence. So I wouldn't say he needs to improve so much. He's not at the stage he was last year, where, we got offered, I think, 18 million in the summer for him. And he's just not quite at that stage. And it's such a shame because you look at him and go, there's so much there. You just need to grab the game a little bit. But that's kind of our squad summed up. The players are a little bit nice sometimes, and there's no one that will really grab the game and take it on themselves and be that guy.
That sounds familiar. Jez, I think you'd probably agree with that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, we've had some moments this season, Rhys, where we've tore teams apart. Like, we had Swansea a few weeks ago, beat them 5-1. We had Plymouth come to our ground a few months ago and beat them 6-1. And we've had some really big scorelines, but equally, as Morgan alludes to, we've also had some really rubbish results. Like last Tuesday, we lost 1-0 to Preston, who hadn't been from memory, hadn't been on a great run, but just rocked up at Carrow Road and got the win they needed. But I'm just looking at this Bay Junho now, and I mean, he's young, isn't he? He's only 21. So I think he's one of them, isn't it? Where do you think how long has he been with you? Just one season?
Yeah, start of last season he came.
Start last season, so perhaps he might get better as it goes on. We've certainly seen players in the past for us that have done that, where you don't necessarily think that they're going to do anything after a season, but if you think he's talented and he can settle in and bed in, I think the player that I'd highlight in our current squad that's a bit like that is Marcelino Nunes, who has always been a very talented player, midfielder, good at set pieces, etc., but went off the ball a little bit in his first season. And I think a lot of that was homesickness.
Yeah, for sure.
But he's kind of bedded in a little bit now. And although he's a little bit injury prone, we're starting to see the benefits of that. And I think for us, it's, and perhaps, I don't know, maybe a little bit for Stoke as well, because obviously you mentioned Victor Johansson, who was at Rotherham last season.
Yes.
Great goalkeeper. And I agree with your sentiment of the best goalkeeper of the Championship. I don't think there's any better. Angus Gunn is as Morgan alluded to, has come in for a bit of stick this season, but I think it's been better in recent weeks. But I put that down to the defence that's in front of him being a little bit better as well. But yeah, no, I think it'll be an interesting game. I think Morgan's 1-1 might not be too far from the truth.
Yeah, I mean, I think as well, like generally, our fan bases or fan bases in the Championship, we've, and I said this on another podcast recently that we've signed a lot of European players, ties to Europe that have come to the Championship, and it's not an easy place to come and play. Like if you've not been used to English football, it's rough and tumble. There's a lot of it's fast paced. I mean, Premier League aside, I think that some fans seem to think that, well, you come in from another country and go, well, it's fine because they're really good in Bosnia, or they're really good in Portugal or wherever, and they come to the UK and they're not pulling up trees. It's like, well, if I said to you, go and do your job in Bosnia and Portugal and learn to speak the language and learn the nuances of the culture, see how you get on. I think that's the problem with Championship fan bases. I think they're impatient. They don't really see that it takes time for these foreign footballers to come in and adapt.
Yeah, we've got a lad called Eric Bocat who came in the start of this season, and so he came from recommendation of one of our previous players, Mama Sidibe, who's now this kind of highly touted European scout. And he came in, he's 25, French, never played in England before. I don't think he's been out of France before. And he was meant to be like absolutely mustard. He was meant to be this leading left back when he came in, and he's got no idea what to do. He doesn't like going forward because he knows that players can bully him. He doesn't like being at the back because he knows that he's one turn away from being beaten and given away a penalty like at QPR. He just looks a little bit lost, and it's a shame because you just kind of want to go and put your arm around him and tell him it'll be okay. But when there's 20,000 odd people going, God, this guy's rubbish, it's really hard for them. You can tell it is in their faces.
Yeah, I mean, we've said this on previous podcasts, haven't we, Jez? That I think fan bases can be too harsh too quickly, and it's a wider question in the world of football. And I'm going to die on this hill, but I'm more than happy to say, well, how would you feel if someone came up to you and was like, "Oh, you're shit at your job"? So come on, guys, like give the guys a break and give them some time.
Yeah, definitely. Right, question 3. So several players have represented both Norwich and Stoke over the years, and I've given a few examples: Nathan Redmond and Peter Crouch. Rhys, which former or current player with ties to both clubs stand out for you the most?
So it's actually quite a good question because we have a striker that we always talk about as our only prolific striker in a long time. It's Peter Thorne.
Oh my God.
He was, from what I can gather, he was pretty abysmal when he went to you guys.
Yeah, pretty. Didn't even score. Maybe got 2 or 3 goals. Is that?
But he scored 60 goals and about 150 for us. He's our only 1 in 2 striker pretty much ever. We've had great strikers, Crouch, Walters, as you mentioned. We've had Ricardo Fuller, but in terms of prolific striker who can kick ball in net and win game, we just don't have any. We've never had any, and he's that kind of player.
Yeah, he was never. So we signed him just after we got relegated from the Premier League under. I'm sure it was under. I'm pretty sure. I think it was going back to the Worthington days. So what, mid 2000s possibly.
Yeah.
And we signed about 4 or 5 players. I don't know who, goodness knows who was head of our recruitment at that time, but we had him. We signed a player called Jason Jarrett that was just, I mean, I don't think the bloke ever kicked a football before. But we seem to sign these players, and I'm probably going to annoy some people here by this comment, but I'm going to make it anyway. There's certain players that I always find if they travel below a certain distance south, they turn into rubbish players.
Don't know if that really works.
Perhaps further south than Coventry, let's say. They're really panicking when they get to Northampton, but
I would too.
When they get to Norwich, they just forget how to be professional footballers, and Peter Thorne was one of those, because I think any of his clubs that he was further north, he seemed to do quite well with, but You know, with us, it was.
I don't think there's anything in the water there, Jez.
No,
I think that's just you going on some random tangent.
Yeah,
in your head.
perhaps we should forget about that. But you know, I'm looking at his stats now. 36 games, 1 goal. That tells its own story, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty impressive for a striker, to be fair. I mean, to be honest, actually, I've heard him on a previous pod. You talked about him. The player that actually is closer to my heart is Cameron Jerome for me.
Oh,
absolutely loved him. I really did. I've a real soft spot for him.
Yeah, I love Cameron Jerome, and the pod that we're putting out next week, I talk about it a little bit more. But absolute hero and I think an undisputed hero, but also unrecognised to a certain extent for the time that he played for Norwich. Given the hangover that we had after coming back down from the Premier League after like 3 seasons, to 1 under Lambert, 2 under Houghton. And then we signed Jerome and you know, him and Graven guided Norwich back to the Premier League under Alex Neil for the second half of the season. You know, things might have been different had he got given the chance against Crystal Palace, where he did this amazing overhead kick. You know, he's one of those players that people always say, oh, he's somewhere between a Championship player and a Premier League player. No, in his prime, Jerome was a Premier League player. Okay, someone like 17th, 16th, 15th style striker. But the guy, you know, he put a shift in. The guy put a shift in, which is more than we can say for many strikers nowadays.
I don't remember him scoring a bad goal at Stoke. I remember him scoring a lot of good goals, but I don't remember him scoring a bad goal.
Yeah.
He probably did, and there's going to be clips sent to me after this that would be like, oh, this goal was rubbish, and you're an idiot. But I don't remember him scoring many bad ones.
No. I mean, I remember his goal against Middlesbrough in the playoff final at Wembley. So that for me is enough.
Mario Vrancic.
Oh, I absolutely love Mario. I really, really did. If we got him 3 years sooner, I'd have given the world for that. But we seem to have in fact, our recruitment actually it seems to be signing any of your players that kind of have 1.5 legs left. We kind of say to you guys after the season, have you got any 32-year-olds that can't run anymore? And you go, yeah, certainly. Well, there you go.
Our team is made up of 18-year-olds now. That's
because we nicked Ben Gibson off you last year.
Yeah. Vrancic was one of my favourite players of all time for Norwich. I mean, I've said on a previous pod that when we signed him in 17-18 under Farker, he got a lot of stick. And I said, there's a guy, you know, there's a player here that is going to be instrumental to the future of this club. And those goals, those free kicks that he scored, I remember messaging, like, a bit fanboy-y, but I messaged him on like Instagram being like, my boy. And, you know, gradually after like a few times, he realized I was the same weirdo fan, just going like, my boy. But like, he always responded. And you know what? Like, he was a cult hero for Norwich. And I don't care what anyone says. Those goals were instrumental for our promotion.
He was one of the best players we've had in the Championship so far. He was absolutely one of the best players we've had in the Championship. He was fantastic.
Classy balls. Yeah. In footballs anyway.
Darryl Russell.
See, I don't remember much. You see, so I don't remember much of him.
Don't worry, Jez pulls rando players out of thin air, don't you, Jez?
No, well, do you know what? When I was working at Stevenage, Darryl actually came. Like I know him, first name terms, brilliant. So Darryl Russell came to train at Stevenage and to speak to him about his time at Norwich. And yeah, I remember him playing for Stoke as well, because I think we actually re-signed him. I don't know if it's from you, but we certainly re-signed him after he was at Stoke.
We tend to send a lot of players to each other, actually. Like I said, you know, kind of Ben Gibson, Mario Vrancic, even Cameron Jerome went to you guys after us straight away. I mean, he had a bit of time at Palace, but. Yeah. Seem to send me, just kind of go, oh, do you lads want him? Yeah, go on, we'll have a bit of a swap deal going on.
Adi Akinbaye.
Yeah, I really liked Adi Akinbaye, I really did. I had a lot of time for him. Again, I can't tell you a lot of incredible things he did at Stoke. I just liked him. I just really liked him. You know, when there's a couple of footballers you just kind of like, I really like you. Everything about you kind of, it's a bit of me. Like Cameron Jerome, he just played with emotion. I remember a game he played where he said afterwards, "Oh, I hit this ball because I was just angry at a decision, and it just happened to fly into the top corner." That kind of player I just like.
Yeah, he was really always really. I always felt Cameron Jerome gave everything he could for the team that he was playing for, and he didn't have any kind of he just got on with it. And what a quality guy. I mean, hopefully, if he ever listens to this, hopefully we can get him on one day, Jez. The CJ fan club is in full motion. Also, Alex Neil.
Yeah.
Yeah, God, yeah, Alex Neil, where to start? I mean, he was a little bit like when we got Gary Rowett, actually. He came and he was a rigid, quite prickly character, and you could kind of get from him when it was going well, it was going really well.
Yeah.
But when it wasn't going well, he could really piss a few people off.
Yeah.
That seemed to be his lasting legacy at Stoke, which was he kind of gave a little bit of stick towards the fans. He didn't get on really well with the players at the end. And that's kind of how he left it, which is a real shame given the amount of money we spent nicking him off Sunderland after he beat us one game.
Yeah, I mean, we had the same conversation with the Preston fan recently, Jez, didn't we, about Alex Neil?
Yeah, it was literally cardboard cut. What was it? Cardboard cut out of that? Not cardboard cut out. I don't know what's going on here. Paul Piscaslida.
Oh God, yeah. I remember him. He came in. His first game was home to Wigan in the FA Cup, and I think he was the only Stoke player that's ever done a step over. And we just thought, God, this guy's magic. He's got all the skills. He's like the reincarnation of Messi. And then he went on to forget how to kick a football for the rest of the season and kind of went back to wherever we got him from.
Well, I remember he played for Sheffield United, and it is to this day the best save I've ever seen when David Seaman. Do you remember that? He headed it, and I mean, it wasn't a bad header. It was going in. Seaman's just, I don't know how he's done it, but he's literally just flung his hand behind and clawed it out. I assume you, judging by the lack of reaction, you two don't remember that, but it was.
No, because you're a football obsessive, so probably not.
I'll send you both a video of it afterwards, but it was phenomenal. But yeah, I think some other ones. I think we mentioned a former manager. There's 2 or 3 on this list have managed or played for Norwich that then went to manage or play for Stoke. So Paul Lambert.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Properly scapegoated by Stoke fans, I think. He was given the job when we'd absolutely ruined everything in the Premier League, and he took us down, inverted, and he really didn't. It was not his fault. Everything was completely rotten by then.
Yeah.
And it was just, who can we bring in that's going to take loads of pelters from the Stoke fans when we go down?
Yeah, he loves doing that. He did that at Villa.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think he's always gone in at a club at a really, other than Norwich, he's gone in at a club at a very unfortunate time. And also, did he have Culverhouse and Castle with him at Stoke as his assistants?
Oh God, we are going back. I would have thought so, because I'd have thought they would have given him all the staff he wanted to come in, to be honest.
I think Castle left him after Lambert left Norwich, mate. Yeah, to be honest.
So I don't think he did, and I think losing those 2 people behind him, and we have mentioned this before, Morgan, haven't we? Where it's a little bit like the Brian Clough, Peter Taylor situation, where they're not. He's not the same without that person. Obviously, you got Mark Robbins there at the moment. He had a really good career in Norwich. Was quite popular.
Big time.
Yeah, famously saved Alex Ferguson's job at Man United.
Yeah, so he's one at the minute that he's come in and he's just assessing the squad. And to be fair, he's brought brilliant coaches with him, like really, really elite coaches with him. And you just, if I think we said it a lot in kind of Stoke forums at the minute, if there is ever a man for the job, I would probably have picked Robbins for this.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully he'll throw it on Saturday, because I don't want you to win.
I don't think he'll need to have any involvement. I think the players will do that for him.
You haven't seen Norwich at home recently, have you? So, I mean, that's a perfect segue to the next question.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure if this is when people look at fixtures list, I'm pretty sure that they don't go, oh, Stoke and Norwich, that's a sexy fixture. What's your favourite past meeting between Norwich and Stoke.
See, I feel like this is one of those questions you've picked to make it all feel better. So I'm pretty sure we've not actually beaten you lot in the best part of a decade now.
Don't worry, you'll do it on Saturday.
So I go back to a home fixture in 2016, so literally 9 years ago the other day. I think Walter scored, it was a 3-1. Walter scored, Hosselu scored. I think you guys scored an own goal as well. And I think Gary O'Neill got sent off in that game.
I remember that game.
Pretty early on.
It's the game when Gary O'Neill went insane and had no reason to double foot, tackle your midfielder. I can't remember who it was, and he got sent off. And I was
Under the Stoke bench,
O'Neill, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, and just after that, it was just like, oh, great, we'll just cruise to victory. And that was pretty much, apart from the first year in the Championship, the last time we beat you. We've just been useless against you since.
Well, you've got, the weekend to look forward to.
Well, exactly. To be honest, actually, you say it's not a sexy fixture. We say every time we're on the telly now, why on earth would they pick Stoke for a TV game?
Don't worry, we're used to 12:30 kickoffs now, and everyone goes to the stadium slightly hungover and big bags under their eyes. That's just me, but I'm sure Jez will agree.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree.
Thanks,
I
mate.
can't wait for Millwall away at 12:30 in 2 weeks' time. That'll be great fun.
Get the Bermondsey beer mile in.
It's the worst possible ground to get to at the best of times, and you got them at 12:30. Honestly.
And also, you've got to get out, so you have to claw your way through the tunnel at the back, finding Danny Dyer every single step of the way. Anyway,
I think I'll have to mention it again, but that game in April 2019 where we effectively secured promotion was probably a highlight for me. Particularly as I was at my in-laws in Devon, and my mother-in-law at the time most famously said, "Is everything all right with Jez? He seems a bit tense today." It was because she goes, "I've never seen him like this before." I was like, "Well, apparently Fiona had to go, yes, they're just about to be promoted to the Premier League, Mum. It's fine, don't worry."
Were you pacing, Jez?
Yeah. They had quite a, not a massive back garden, but big enough to have a pace up and down, and a pond that I nearly fell in a couple of times. But yeah, it was, we were sort of travelling back throughout that, and I think I even put a bet on Stoke to win to make myself feel better, that if you had won, then
base is covered.
Yeah, exactly that. So, but yeah, no, that was good. I think a few years ago I'm sure it was you guys, we beat 3-0 possibly.
Last one.
But that was, we'd scored a couple of decent goals in that one from memory. But yeah, I
was actually looking at that one before the pod, and I was amazed it was 3. I honestly remember it as about 6-0 because it should have been about 8 or 10-0.
That's Norwich, though. We either turn up and go, right, we're going to dismantle your team, or we're just don't bother coming to the game.
Yeah. No, definitely. But no, I think, it's that old analogy, isn't it, that you've probably heard about a million times, cold night in Stoke on a
I love that. I love that one.
Which I say, Rhys, you've probably heard about a million times, but we do tend to, every time we do go to the Bet365 stadium now, is it what it's called at the moment?
It is, yeah, Bet365.
We can't really advertise that on this podcast, Jez.
Well, that's what the stadium do.
Hey, that's our only income nowadays. It's not coming from the football.
Other betting companies are available, yeah. But no, I think we do tend to be there on a Tuesday night for some strange reason. But yeah, so no, there would certainly be the ones that I would pick out, Morgan.
Yeah.
I suppose we should move on to the last question before the random question of the week.
My lovely random question. Rhys, I hope you're prepared for this. Hope you're sitting down and comfortable.
I am. I'm waiting for the little jingle you put with it, Phil.
I have to sing it every time.
Right. I suppose you haven't bought yourself a guitar or something, Morgan.
Me?
Yeah. Anyway, question 5. Score prediction for Norwich versus Stoke. How do you see the game playing out?
So this is a really interesting one. So if we play 4 at the back with Pearson as defensive midfielder and just a normal 4-3-3 with him there, we've got a chance. We won't play that because we're away from home. We'll play 5 at the back. So that means effectively we'll have nothing in midfield and you'll overrun us. So I could either see it being 3-1 to Norwich with 2 goals in the first 10 minutes.
Right.
Or I can see us limping through to half time at 0-0 and then you guys scoring 2 in the second half. So it's either 3-1 or 2-0 from me.
Okay.
Very pessimistic, Rhys. You haven't obviously watched our recent form.
Well, you should have heard me on Saturday, apparently. So I was interviewed by Radio Stoke early before the game, and Pete Smith, who's one of our top journos in the area, he was asked, "Oh, what do you make of Rhys's thoughts there?" And he said, "Well, he's very doom and gloom, isn't he, our Rhys?" So I've been described professionally as doom and gloom. So I should have told you that beforehand, to be honest.
Well, I'll tag him when I put all the promos out for this advert for this episode.
Yeah. I mean, we like I said recently, I saw the Derby game, and the Preston one, and it's like, what you'll probably do is pack out your midfield, and hopefully our coach would have learnt by now that we can't play through teams that do that through the midfield, and we'll play some nice wing play, get some balls in, and hopefully keep it low. Splendid rush, bravo, win or die, score the goal. That's what I'm thinking, Jez.
Good. Well, I've said from the very start, and I think it'll be a draw. I'd like to think we'd sort of banish the doom last week when we got quite a good draw, I think, away from home to Hull, 1-1. But I think it'll be another draw. I think it'll be, hopefully Kenny McLean's got over his bout of whatever he had. I think he had flu or something. He wasn't feeling very well, was he? So hopefully he's back. So at best, I think we'll win 2 or 3-1, but I think it'll be a draw. So 1-1.
Do you want me to predict my the insane version of Morgan Hewitt or the normal version?
We always want to see the insane one, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely.
10-0. If you're an avid follower of this podcast, you'll know that I'll vote 10-0.
10-0, yeah. I was surprised you didn't initially.
If there was a team it was going to be 10-0 to, it probably would be Norwich. So you probably got the team right.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to wish injury on the fella, but it would have to be resulting in injury to your goalkeeper, who's excellent. So I can't see him conceding 10. But
yeah.
Well,
we will see.
It's my insane prediction of the week.
It's now your insane random question of the week, please, Morgan.
It's not that insane, Rhys. So it's the random question of the week. Hope you're happy to be involved.
Absolutely. Well, that jingle sounded a bit morbid. If you want to do it again, but a little bit, a bit more oomph.
Are you in a band, Rhys? Are you in a band?
I'm not, no.
So, what's this?
Good.
Right, okay. Random question of the week.
That's better.
Love that.
Right. Stoke is known as the Potteries because of the 5 villages outside of the city centre, is that right?
It's the biggest pottery making area in the world.
Amazing. If you could make any sort of pottery, what would it be and why?
Oh, that's a really good question.
You knew it was coming. Come on.
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. And actually, I did a little bit of prep expecting you to ask about pottery.
Of course you did.
I saw a local pottery maker where I live at the minute. Creative Pottery, his company is. And I basically
what's his pottery company called for the advertisement?
It's Creative Pottery by Lee Waterman. It's in Hope Valley in Derbyshire.
Fantastic.
And a little plug for him there. I'll let him know I said that. But basically, he was talking about plates and stuff, and I thought that was far too boring.
Okay, carry on.
So I would make, in ode to our fantastic mascot, I would make a big ceramic potamus, a hippopotamus mascot.
Is that just because of the pun?
Well, that's why our mascot is Potamus, the big hippo. He's hippopotamus after Potters.
Oh, it's much better than Captain Canary. There's no links to being a captain or a canary whatsoever.
Yeah, it's an ode to Potamus for how much I love him.
Jez, what would you potter?
What would I potter? Well, I was just thinking, it's a shame that Graham Potter never managed Stoke, isn't it, really?
Well, we wanted him at one point, and I loved him.
Yeah, he was class. And then, actually, funny enough, Narcy Pelak went to West Ham to be his assistant, didn't he? Or at least one of his coaches.
Yes, he's number 2, yeah.
Yeah, which is I thought was a really good move for him, given what happened at Stoke. What would I potter? Good question. I would potter probably I'm trying to think about this now. So like a plate, a cup, and like a bowl, I suppose, which you could have cereal in. But again, I would have the club crest on one of them. I'd have a player on the other, and then maybe like either a club legend or a local celebrity on the other one.
Like you're a local celebrity.
Nah, I'm not.
That's very practical suggestions. I like that.
A bit too pragmatic for my liking. I think for me, I'd design a bust of a Harry Potter. So
Of one of our
so like Harry Potter, but Harry.
Harry Potter.
Yeah, so like a Harry. So it's almost like that film with Leonardo DiCaprio, where it's like a dream inside a dream.
Oh, Total Recall?
No, that's not the film.
Mm.
It's something begin with I, but a Harry Potter. Yes, Inception. Yes. So you'd have a Harry Potter that was a Stoke fan that resembled Harry Potter. And I just came up with that in the space of 1 minute.
Good.
Have you got like a kind of leaderboard for the best answers to the questions?
Well, this is up there.
Well, it's definitely not Jez.
Oh my god!
I'd potter a cup and a plate.
It's very practical.
Yeah. This
is
not
organised. I'll probably come up with something better than that, but.
You can't do anything with a life-size hippo.
Yeah, you can. Probably not. It's a family show, Rhys.
Yeah. No, there we go. All right, well, Rhys, thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure getting to know a little bit more about Stoke and you. Really, it's been great. Is there anyone you want to give a sort of specific shout out to before we finish?
I'll be killed if I don't shout out Lucy Booth, Ted and Jules at Stoke, and Alex Lewis.
And who are these people to you?
So Lucy is an absolute inspiration. She's not missed a game in about 20 years.
Amazing.
Ted and Jules are the club legends who go to all the players' weddings and stuff. They are super fans. And Alex is my dad, who will be listening to this for the first time in the car on the way down. I'll be surprising him with it.
Amazing.
Brilliant. Yeah. So, Morgan, anything else from you? Any more Potter stories?
No. I just like pottering around the house.
Good. Yeah. Good. Well, let's just do the sign off. I've been Jez Davies.
I've been Harry Potter.
That's it for this episode of Beyond the Barkley. Thanks so much for listening. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and leave a review if you enjoyed the show. You can also catch all our episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. And if you've got any questions, stories, or topics you'd like us to cover, get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, on the ball, City.